now, throughout the discussions that we had during the call, we can all agree it's quite a major challenge for the AP teams and for the companies to be able to sustain this amount of channels where you need to receive the invoices. More interestingly, it was already difficult, right? Like with all of the email inboxes, making sure that you have all of the PDF invoices, scan invoices. But now you also need to face this growing wave of e-invoicing. So what Rossum is suggesting is one unified system for invoice automation journey. So the way we're thinking about it is that we are accommodating and putting together the platform that can receive invoices from all of these different channels, whether it's sent by email, whether you're receiving it through other platforms, or whether it's an electronic invoice that actually sent either through the government portal, through PEPPOL, or the same way as an attachment to the email from some of the country requirements. So we are able to accept these different country requirements. We're able to accept different formats and automatically pass it through the system to your downstream. But of course, just capturing the data and transforming, let's say, the data to downstream system is not enough. You also need to be able to validate this data in the AP process, because you need to make sure the amounts are in place, are correct. You need to code the invoice. You need to make sure there are no duplicates being sent. So in this case, Rossum, as a one solution, will help you with all of this information. And I will switch now to show you exactly how we can do it. So Alban, over to me. Okay, what I have prepared is already email with a couple of different samples that I will send to Rossum environment. As this email is being sent, I would like to review the samples that we have actually attached to the invoice and how they differ. So what you can see here is that there's, of course, standard PDF example, which means the AI needs to be able to capture the data from the image. There is example of PDF with the layer of XML. In these cases, we need to prioritize XML data over what is on the PDFs to stay compliant. And there are two different examples of different XML files that also have different structure. And if you open one of those files, you'll see it's quite difficult to read. And of course, me as an AP person, most probably I would really struggle to make sure that all this data sent in this XML is correct. So what Rossum is suggesting, and I'm switching over to the platform, is being able to not only extract this information, but being able to automate receiving of all of these different e-invoices in different structures from different country requirements. So as you can see here, all these invoices went to the same queue, and there is no difference to the process, whether it's electronic invoice or whether it's a standard PDF. You can see that Rossum captured all of these data, regardless of the format and the structure. It's already automatically mapped and very smooth process of how you're receiving it to the environment. And you've seen I send it live at the beginning. It's really the matter of seconds. Each of these examples, right, we will deep dive into each and one of them, already has the data captured. And of course, if you'd like to separate, Rossum still will give you a possibility to filter out electronic invoices from the rest of your documents, which will definitely help with the reporting. And as we received and captured the data, you can see some of the suggestions or some of the sneak peeks that Rossum is giving me after validating some of these documents. For example, some of these e-invoices may be invalid, and you need to make sure that this information is checked. Some of these invoices may have additional information that you can benefit from in your AP process. So let's open some of them and just look at what it is and deep dive and resolve these exceptions that we've seen. Actually, from the first document that I open, this is an example of electronic invoice where you have mix of PDF and XML, right? Let's look at a different example. So it's interesting. On the left side, you see all of the fields already pre-populated. And as they are being pre-populated, right, that means that everything is already mapped and you as a business don't need to take care of it. So you don't need to do any IT project, which is separate to that. You don't need to onboard each country individually. So Rossum already has it as part of the platform. And as you go through, You can see the data like document ID, issue date. So anything that will be sent together with the invoice is already visible here to the AP person. But if you remember, we had that example which was purely XML structure. It would be really, really hard to know, is this document ID correct? Can I actually visually see that? And what you see on the right side is Rossum creating a PDF out of your XML. So we're actually transforming this information into the PDF and making it more visual for you, for your AP team, whenever you need to review the exceptions or validate the extracted information. And of course, for the audit purposes, you will be able to take this PDF and then store and archive it in your downstream system. So we looked at how the data can be captured. And as we can go to a different document, or we can see through the examples we have, all of these different formats, the data is mapped and is there. But that's just the first step. So we got the data, now we need to validate. As you're familiar with the AP process, you know, of course, first and foremost, you need to ensure that this is invoice received from the right vendor that is actually registered in your ERP system. And you need to make sure that it was sent to the right entity. Rossum is already automatically validating these vendor details towards your master data, like getting your vendor ERP code. It's also getting additional vendor details like IBAN. And this IBAN can be validated towards the IBAN that was sent with this invoice. And actually, as you can see, I removed one of them. The moment they don't match to your contracted vendor details, Rossum will automatically flag this for you as exception. As we're going through the validations, of course, there is the right entity. It's very similar to the matching of the vendor, right, that you can see here on top. But the next example for the IP validation could be payment terms. We have payment terms that we have received from this invoice, and we can see that these payment terms actually suggest that there's some discount if you pay this invoice earlier. So on top of getting this information, Rossum can already intuitively and intelligently calculate for you what would be the due date for this invoice if you were to pay it earlier. But more interestingly, it will calculate you the amount that you can save if you were to pay this invoice earlier. Every month or at the end of the year, when you're reconciling your invoices, you can run the report and get a lot more data and insights than purely submitting invoice from the receiving just directly to your ERP system. And what can be an invoice processing without actually invoice coding? So it means assigning the right GL codes, the right cost centers, the right tax codes to this invoice. Rossum can automatically suggest you what would be the appropriate tax code, what would be appropriate cost center, and GL code on the line item level that needs to be associated with this invoice. This is also done automatically and actually verified towards your chart of accounts or towards your master data or information in the ERP system. And as you validated the whole invoice and we not only captured but made sure information is right and you can send it for approval after, there was one thing that I cannot really avoid. We need to make sure that this invoice that was received is compliant. And that means the structure, all of the calculations are also correct. And as you can see here, previously Rossum was showing you that this invoice actually is not valid. So we already can understand and scan in the background the actual received electronic invoice. We can validate technically what could be the error or problem with this document without you having to implement it extra. And we can transform this or write this in a human-readable language. So actually, if you were to reject this invoice and you want to send it back to your vendor or to your supplier, Rossum automatically writes you an email with the exact error message that was shown from this document. So it tells your supplier what needs to be fixed and what is not aligning. And then actually you can immediately receive the response with updated invoice to Rossum and also automatically process this. This eliminates the possibility of fraud and also saves you with certain compliance requirements in the future to ensure that the invoices that you receive are actually correct. So, and as all invoices will be processed and submitted for approval and goes through all the AP process, it then will go down, exported to the downstream system. And this invoice actually was automated. So of course, anything that doesn't need any exception resolution will be automated. And we can send it to your downstream system in various formats. Probably most important for ERPs are XMLs or JSONs, but of course there's Excel or CSV. But on top of that, we also can send the original file. So we will extract the data, we will work on this data, validate, enrich anything that you need to do to make sure the invoice is complete. And then we will send this data downstream, not only in the right mapping to what your ERP accepts, but also we can send you original file of the original electronic invoice or PDF or scan, so that make sure that you have the archive and also for the audit purposes.